We will be right back. All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. So this is Seeking Sustainability Live number 87 today. Been doing it since the end of April. It's amazing that it's been going around so long. I'm so grateful that people keep saying yes. And last week Friday was talking with Adam Beck about bilingual families, multilingual families. And so I'm so happy to have you, Kim, today because you are also in a multilingual, multicultural family living in
Yeah, thanks
Japan.
for
Yeah.
inviting me. Yeah.
And your family trip photos are just amazing. So I'm really looking forward to showing everyone all your wonderful travels.
Okay, great.
Would you mind just introducing yourself just a little bit before we start?
Yeah, sure. So I first came to Japan in 2000, and like many others, I thought I would stay a year. But my first stint in Japan ended up lasting 8 years. So I met my husband here, and then we just continued with life. And right away, I fell in love with the Japanese countryside. And it's just so beautiful. And that's one thing I wasn't expecting when I first moved to Japan, was how beautiful it would be, how many waterfalls there are, how much water and mountains just like captivated me. So anyway, that first stint lasted on until about 2008. And then we moved to Vancouver. But there was a year in between that we traveled. So we traveled for a year, mostly through Southeast Asia, Nepal, India, China, and Brazil. Oh, and actually, it was very interesting. In Brazil of that year, they were celebrating 100 years of Japanese immigration to Brazil. So we had the opportunity to attend some events for that. And we made a photo book of that time and sold it, which actually funded part of our trip as well, which was great. So after that, we moved to Vancouver. And that's where we had our daughter. And let's see, I think it was 2012. We left Vancouver for Brazil. So my husband was working with a fair trade organization, and we thought that we might want to start our own fair trade shop. So we went to the northeast of Brazil, and we took our daughter with us, and we traveled around the Sertão, which is the dry outback area of Brazil, and we met up with artisans and different fair trade groups. But at the end of that trip, we realized the Brazilian economy was really strong at that time. So we realized the cost of the products was just going to be too expensive. So we were kind of wondering what we should do. And I was scrolling through Facebook one day and found a post that a former colleague of mine was leaving the school that I used to work at. So I applied for that, and we came back for 2 years. Then we ended up going back to Canada, and here we are again, back in Japan. So it's been a lot of back and forth, and travel is really a part of our lifestyle, I
Yeah.
guess you could say.
I'm showing some of your photos, not from Japan, but maybe other travels that you've done. How did you get interested in photography? You take such amazing photos.
Oh, thank you. Well, actually, in 2000 and maybe five, I went to China by myself. And so I traveled around China for, I think it was about 5 weeks, and I was on my own. And I just really started to think about the pictures I was taking at that point and thinking about the composition and the light and trying new things. And I just had a point and shoot. But when I came back, I realized that I wanted to learn more. And several of my friends in Japan were really into photography. And my husband was also, um, had been into photography. So we decided to buy a good camera. And then things just kind of took off from there. And actually, I think it was really when we were traveling for that year, we had a real focus on photography. So we were out shooting every day. Um, so, of course, when you're doing something every day, you improve and you grow and become better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
remember we knew each other, of course, in Hiroshima before you left. And when you were traveling, I was really, like many people are now, traveling in a virtual way through the photographs of others, right? And
Mhm.
you had such beautiful photos along the way, both you and your husband. Great photographers. Yeah, wonderful.
Thanks. Actually, as I was posting on Instagram during these COVID times, I had several friends comment on that, how they felt like they were in lockdown in Canada, a lot of my family and friends. So really they could not go anywhere. Like even though we had school closures, events canceled, we were never in a full lockdown like my friends and family back home. So a lot of them were looking at my Instagram and there were a lot of comments like, wow, thank you so much for posting. I'm really feeling that, I'm kind of traveling through you and seeing more and it's inspiring and it feels good. So
That's
great. I'm
wonderful.
glad that you felt that too.
Yeah, and to be honest, with my focus on sustainable tourism and sustainable travel, this is something that should be happening all over Japan right now. You know, like
Mhm.
places should be putting up photos of events that would be happening right now, which maybe they're on break, and building a foundation of virtual tours and virtual experiences that hopefully, once travel is possible again, it builds that brand that people can rely on when they're booking travel in
Yeah,
future.
for sure. Yeah, actually, it's true. I was just watching or looking at Instagram the other day, and Paul, your husband, was posting his cycle route along the Shinamami Kaido. And I was looking at that and thinking, oh, it's so inspiring. I really want to do that. I want to go on that bike trip as well. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of your photographs are places that Paul and I have introduced through Get Hiroshima. And I
Hmm.
always think, wow, we were there and our photos were just not quite as nice as that. So I'm so glad you went to those places again and had quality photos for us.
Well, actually, a lot of the places we have discovered through Get Hiroshima. Like when we're thinking on Friday night, what are we going to do on the weekend? I often go to Get Hiroshima, look at day trips in the area, and I'm inspired by the site all the time and the travels that you've been on.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
after doing it for 20 years, I think um, we have some photos which are maybe old or we've done, but they serve a purpose. So you don't really update them. So it's so wonderful to
Right.
see people go out and take new photos. And, that's such a wonderful way to keep the
Well,
site fresh.
yeah, and I'm just too, I'm always so amazed. Like every time I think like, oh, that's been done or whatever, like you'll look at a place through someone else's eyes and it looks completely different. Like there was a picture posted on Instagram yesterday, I think, of the Gembaku Dome with the cloud, and it was like the majority of the photo, like I would say one third of the photo was the Gembaku Dome, and then above it, two-thirds were the cloud. And this was an amazing cloud that looked like it was on fire. And, I just thought, wow, what a wonderful new perspective on something we've seen hundreds of pictures of. So
And
there's always a
somewhere
new way to see things.
and somewhere that you live nearby, you can
Yeah,
still experience new visions or new sights as a photographer, even in your neighborhood, and that's such a wonderful thing.
exactly. I mean, I've cycled past that and probably taken 100 photos of it myself, but never one like that one yesterday. So,
Right.
mhm.
Well, let's start with Kochi because that was your most recent trip. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Kochi was great. We've been thinking to go there for a long time, and it's not so far away. To get to the mountain area, it only takes about 3 hours from Hiroshima. And because it was the Obon holiday, my husband had some extra days off, and I was off for summer. My daughter was off for summer. So we had a full week that we could travel and camp. So decided to go to Kochi, and
And
it
for
started
anybody
out.
who's not familiar, Kochi is
Yeah.
on Shikoku Island, kind of in the middle of Japan. off to the side, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, so we started by going to the beach. We were planning on going to the mountains, but then we had heavy rain. So we looked at the weather and we noticed it wasn't raining at the beach. So we're like, okay, we're going to the coast. So we went to the coast and traveled along the beach. And what's amazing about Kochi and maybe all of Shikoku is that there is free campsites, like pretty much everywhere. Like all of the campsites that we went to were free. And there are maps. And if anyone's interested, we could post maybe a link to that. But there's a map and it has like a points where all of the free campsites are. So we just looked at the areas we wanted to go, clicked on those, got the address, and you just show up there.
Oh my
So it's really
gosh.
great. And,
Yeah.
it helps keep the cost of the trip down. Plus, we were cooking and, brought a lot of food and things with us as well, which also helps keep the cost down for a week-long family trip. Um,
I'm
so,
astounded by the clarity of the water. It just looks
oh,
pristine.
it's honestly Ok- Okinawa. We've been to Okinawa, which are the southern islands of Japan, and they are so beautiful and tropical and gorgeous and everything you'd expect a tropical island to look like. We did not expect Kochi to look like that, but it does. Like the coast is just it's phenomenal, and I don't know which picture you're showing, but there's this area, like areas that are very rocky along the coast. And the snorkeling around there is amazing. Like the variety of tropical fish was unreal. There are Moorish idols, there's lots of colorful fish. I felt like I was snorkeling in Okinawa. It was amazing.
So I'm
Yeah.
showing one
So,
picture now, and the color of the water is so bright green. And there's a few
yeah.
boats in like a
Oh,
cove.
yes. This is a wonderful
Unbelievable.
place to snorkel. I mean, we just kind of stood there in awe looking down at that because the color was unreal. And honestly, I have not done any editing at all to that photo. That is the color of the water. I mean, some photos I tinker with a bit just so they can show what I'm seeing because I want you to see the true color. But that one, that's all water. That the water's beauty is shining through right there.
And
Yeah.
it looks like you had just great weather because I'm showing this photo of the tree and then the beach and the clouds. So beautiful. The big
Yeah,
sky.
that's actually a surfer beach. And so we didn't swim there. We just stopped there quickly to take a look. We were on our way to the campsite, and the parking lot was full of surfers. They had, had their vans, had their wetsuits out, things all set up. And I think the surf wasn't so good that day, so there weren't a lot of them out there. But there are many surfing beaches along that coast as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
So there's,
And so was it about the same temperature as Hiroshima? Was it really hot?
was hot. It
Yeah.
was, I think, hotter. Yeah, there was one day that I remember looking at the forecast. It was 37. We were on the beach and it said 37 feels like 42. And I thought, oh my gosh, good thing we can get into the water at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the water
So
was cool enough.
the water was cool enough. The water was warmer, of course, at the beach than it was in the mountains, but it was still very refreshing. And as you might be able to see in some of the photos, there's shallower sections. So there's some really nice areas for swimming for families where it's shallow, and then the further you can go quite far out, and then the surf. So it's a really good place to visit with a family.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your parenting philosophy because you guys
Mhm.
seem to have a very outdoor centered nature focus when you do your trips. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. Well, I think long ago, we decided that, we didn't want to buy a bunch of plastic toys that Yasmin, our daughter, would play with for like a couple of days and that they'd end up sitting there and piling up in a corner. So we thought, like, instead of giving her toys, we want to give her experiences. So we really don't buy a lot of things, a lot of toys or things like that. We try to use whatever money we might have used on those things to put towards family trips or outings we might go on. And also, when my daughter was born, we told our family the same thing. So I noticed that, my brother was getting a lot of toys from my mom for his kids, and I thought, oh gosh, I don't want all that stuff in the house. It's just going to pile up. Plus, we never really know if we're going to be in one place for very long, so I didn't want to have all of this stuff. And actually, what's interesting too is they started to buy us experience gifts. So Yasmin started to get things like a subscription to National Geographic or science crates from Kiwi, lots of books, tickets to the Bug Zoo. And then my family started to do the same thing with each other. They started buying each other experience gifts. So like a voucher to go out for dinner or tickets to a movie or things like that. So less stuff is great for our planet. So I think it really stems from there. And also, too, we just really believe that, being outside in nature, it fosters a love for nature. I think our daughter will grow up to be a protector of nature, right? She'll not only appreciate it, but want to protect it as well. Yeah.
Well, she is already, how old is she?
She's 8.
8. And she's already a budding activist. You guys have joined climate change events and cleanup events, and it's very impressive. So
Yeah.
she seems to have a very clear understanding already about the
She
importance
does.
of nature. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk to her a lot about those things, and we often read books. We've read The Secret Life of Trees together, and other books about nature, and things about like how the Earth was formed and that kind of thing, which is really neat being here and going to places. I think I sent you some photos from Akiyoshidai, which we might look at later, but the caves that are in Yamaguchi, and they were formed 300 million years ago. And that the Karst Plateau there, the rocks were pushed up, and those rocks were actually part of a seabed. So she kind of gets to see those things firsthand, which is really neat, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
So,
showing the cave photos now.
oh, great.
Akiyoshidai. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So that was part of a camping trip we went on. Um, when was that? I think it was during Golden Week. I can't quite remember, but we had a longer break, and oh no, it was just a 3-day weekend, I think. So during that 3-day weekend, we camped for a couple of nights, and on the way back, we stopped in Akiyoshidai. So those caves are absolutely amazing. Actually, they're the biggest caverns in Japan. And there's over 400 caverns that were created by underground rushing water. So it was really neat to be, down there exploring all this. And yeah, and I think like she learns that way. She's learning through these experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also recently, a friend sent me an article, and the article was called Vacations Boost Children's Development. And it was stating that there's two ingrained systems that we have. One is seek and the other is play. And that when we go on family vacations, we activate those systems that we don't usually use when staying at home. And when those systems are activated, they show that our frontal lobe grows. And the frontal lobe is the area where problem solving takes place, emotional expression, judgment, and a couple other things I can't remember. But the play and seek really activates that. And so I think when you take kids away from their daily routine and also parents away from their daily routine, everybody is just a little bit more relaxed. And I think it really, encourages that seek and play. Yeah. So many kids these days, stay home on weekends. There's a lot of video games and a lot of TV and just, getting out there and seeking and exploring. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, since we're in the caves right now, let's stay around that area. Around there, you also went to the Inari Shrine, the torii gates along the coast.
Yeah, just gorgeous. That whole coastline is beautiful. Really beautiful to explore. Unfortunately, when we went to that Inari shrine, they were painting the torii gates, so we couldn't go into the shrine. So I had to do some kind of fancy camera work because I didn't want the painters in my photo. So I had to wait a little bit for them to move or kind of position myself in the right way so they weren't a part of it.
So
Yeah,
how do
but
you plan and choose your trips? Like, do you take into consideration what might be most educational or just fun or depending on the weather? What are the considerations?
I think all of those things. Yeah. So I think, we're here in Japan, so I really want Yasmin to learn about the landscape here, the geology here, but also thinking about like culture and, you know, so many things, architecture, art, food. And, it's just really amazing because Japan is such a small country, yet there's so many areas to explore that are so different from each other. There's so many different landscapes. And as you know, there's so many different local specialties. So we think of all of those things. And, I guess too, it just depends on what our life is like that weekend or our schedule is like, how far we can go, how, if we need to stay somewhere close, what's around. Yeah.
And it, it,
Um,
it looks like sometimes you guys are even caught in a bit of rain, but that doesn't seem to deter you. In fact, some of your pictures, like I'm showing right now, of a river inside a forest and it's misty, maybe lightly raining. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Those were taken just in Hatsukaichi, actually Gokura Kuji. So not very far, maybe 30 minutes from Hiroshima by car. And it was a really rainy day. And we thought, okay, well, we better go somewhere close to home. So that's how we chose that place. Um, but we've lived in Vancouver and Victoria, BC on Vancouver Island, so the Pacific Northwest for a long time, which, we got pretty used to rain. We go months and months with rain, lots and lots of rain throughout the winter months. So if we didn't go out and play in the rain, we would just be stuck inside all the time. So weather is not really such a deterrent for us. The cold is more so for me. But rain can create some very beautiful pictures. And the pictures of Gokura Kuji, are you showing the ones of the
In
um,
Hatsukaichi, I can go there
in
now.
Hatsukai?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at those, there's the misty mountains, but there's also some of lilies, water lilies, and so those pictures would have looked very different on a sunny day, a sunny morning. But the rain really adds something to it, I think. So we were on our way there, and the rain became torrential. And I was like, oh, maybe this wasn't a good idea. And I said to my husband, should we turn back? And he's like, oh, we're halfway. Let's just keep going. And luckily, when we got there, the sky did clear a bit, and it gave us a couple of hours to go explore that area. So we were able to walk around that pond and take photos, and it was so much fun because we found turtle shells, so we could pick up those turtle shells and talk about turtles and look for turtles and smell the shell and and my daughter said, I'm not sure I want to smell it because I know that turtles pee on the eggs. She's like, do you think they smell like pee? And they didn't. But maybe the rain had washed that off. I don't know.
Oh, we got a comment from David Douglas Stewart. He says, beautiful pics. Thank you, David.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
So, yeah, you guys are always exploring insects and also, venturing out even if it's rainy. But yeah, maybe
Yeah,
being in Vancouver was good training, huh?
it was. Yeah, my daughter actually went to an outdoor kindergarten there. So she was outside rain or shine. And she got used to the elements as well. So, I think maybe with most kids, weather doesn't really phase them too much. They all want to be out there playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
sent
talking
you sent me a short video of rain on the lily pads. Let's see
Oh,
if
yes.
that will
Okay,
play.
sure.
So it's just so simple and so beautiful. And you caught it right at the moment where the rain started falling lightly, and it's gorgeous. Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So you had just mentioned insects, and that's always a fun thing for us. So when we were in Kochi, we had a lot of fun looking at insects there. And I didn't send you a picture of this because it's not an interesting picture, but we found a stick bug. It was on our table, and it was, about this big. And my daughter really likes insects. She's been going to bug zoos or insectariums since she was very little. But to see one on our table, I didn't even know that they existed in Japan. Like I didn't realize they lived here. So it was really fun. I almost picked it up and threw it off. And then my husband said, he's like, no, no, it's a stick bug. So really fun to see. Yeah.
Nice.
So I
Wait,
often do take pictures of insects.
yeah, wonderful. We got another comment from Vera. She says, I'm enjoying your talk and your beautiful pictures. Thank you, Joy and Kim. Thank you, Vera.
Thanks, Vera.
Yeah, there is a nice photo of your daughter's hand with a bug. I don't think it's a stick
Yeah.
bug, but it's a big one. She's
No,
not
it's not a stick
afraid,
bug. I'm not
not
sure what
afraid
that
of
is. No,
insects.
she loves them all, which actually kind of worries me. We've had to tell her, like this one is poisonous, this one's dangerous. Don't pick up any caterpillars,
Oh my gosh.
especially when she was little. Now she
Yeah.
understands, but at first she wanted to touch everything. And if there's ever a bug in the house, we have to catch it
Yeah.
and put it outside. Yeah,
Well,
there's
that's
no killing them because they're cute and they're just living their lives.
yeah. Well, our daughter was the same when she was little, and we went to Australia, and she was fascinated by the scariest giant lizards. And she would go right up to them and be like, hello. And they'd be like,
Wow. And yeah, there are some dangerous
oh,
critters in
yeah.
Australia from
Luckily,
what
we
I
don't
hear.
have too many dangerous insects here. Let's go
Yeah.
back to Kochi. You went to a really
Yeah, sure.
interesting, it looks like a lighthouse on the coast, and then you go
Oh,
down,
yeah.
and
That's
there
Cape.
you can see the underwater scene from inside.
Oh, yes. That is along the Tatsukushi coast. And that observation tower is really neat because when you go in, you walk down, I don't know how many flights of stairs. It's like walking up a lighthouse in the opposite, but going down. You're going down to view um, what's under the sea there. So that's really cool. And there's several different windows, and you just kind of walk around in a circle. And there were lots of tropical fish the day we went. Unfortunately, the clarity wasn't so good, so there weren't really many great pictures. I still, of course, took pictures of Yasmin viewing the fish,
No, it's
but they're not
beautiful.
not the best
In
pictures.
front of the round window. That's a gorgeous photo.
Oh, did I send you one?
No,
Oh,
took it from Instagram, so
oh,
it
okay.
screenshotted it. But I
Yeah,
knew you were talking about Kochi, so I wanted to include that one. I think I saw
right.
that in Atlas Obscura. I think I saw
Oh, I
that thing.
love that site.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, that's another thing that I often do. Before we go anywhere, I look at that site and I just type in our destination and see what's around there. So I did the same thing last year. We went to a family reunion in Holland, and I just typed in the areas we were going to be and, to see what kind of interesting things came up. So highly, I recommend that site to anyone. That Atlas Obscura, they have very obscure, interesting places.
Yeah, one of the women I interviewed in the series, she writes some articles for them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so really
About Japan.
interesting.
About
There's
places in Japan.
about places in Japan. Yeah,
Right.
there's another place you described as an enchanted garden.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, it's Nakatsu Gorge. And Nakatsu Gorge is, I think, one of the most magical places I've ever been. So that's the mountain area of Kochi. So after we went to the beach, we went back to the mountain area. And actually, it was quite a relief to get back there because the temperature dropped at night and we even needed a blanket for sleeping. So it was really comfortable. And we camped on the same mountain where this gorge is. So we were able to get up very early in the morning and go on our hike. And the hike's about an hour. And so there weren't really very many people there. I think we encountered like 3 or 4 people also hiking at that hour. But it was magical. It's the water is unlike anything I've ever seen. Like it's hard to believe that it's a river. There are these like red rocks and the water is crystal clear, but it's turquoise. And so the combination of the red rocks, the turquoise water, the sunlight sparkling on the water, and the bridges that go through this gorge, it was mind blowing, really. And as we were going through, I was saying to my daughter, "Oh, it's like we're in an enchanted forest." And she was saying, "Oh, I think like a gnome's going to pop out from behind a tree at any second." But when we went over the bridge, I can remember we had to turn right. And as we turned, there was this, like, there are these rock walls, and there's a bridge across. And the bridge is this like kind of old mossy stone bridge. And we went under this bridge, and then there were 2 rock walls with like a thundering waterfall. It was just gorgeous.
Wow.
And a very blue pool. Like, honestly, one of the most beautiful places that I've been. And it's only 3 hours from Hiroshima. And like I said, I moved here in 2000. How could I have not been to this place?
Yeah. Did you
Yeah,
guys
so
go
I'm
in?
glad I've been.
Did you swim in the water?
Well, we went down to another area a little bit further along in the hike, and it's called, I think it was called the Seven Pillars. And then we had a tricky climb down to get to like a swimming spot. And we did swim there for, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes or so.
Wow.
It was very nice. It was very refreshing. It was such a hot and sweaty day.
Wow, wonderful. What a great adventure. It just,
Yeah, it was
the
a great adventure.
watercolor is just amazing.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And I'm not even sure my photos do it justice. Honestly, it's one place that you have to see for yourself. It's just stunning. And there is nothing really like turning that corner and seeing that waterfall. I felt like when I was there, I felt like, like this must have been featured in National Geographic at some point because it just looks like that kind of place that you would, be flipping through a magazine and just be like, wow, this really exists.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel really lucky that I got to go there and take some pictures as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
Mm.
Wow.
It's really interesting. Some people have recently, I think I've seen it on a couple of different sites. People have posted something like, put down your cameras. If you're always taking pictures, you're not living in the moment. And that is just so not true for me. I think to each their own, but really, I think taking photos really enhances my experience and my family's experience because I'm doing something I love and I'm having fun. And, I'm actually pretty quick now at taking photos. I've had a lot of practice. So I'm pretty quick, but also like I'm preserving those memories for us. And sometimes my daughter will even look at some of the pictures I've taken and she'll go back and she'll draw them. She really loves to draw. So she'll sometimes say, "Oh, take a picture of that for me. I want to draw it later on." So, yeah, for me, taking photos just enhances that experience. And I love it.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to remember what you did,
Mhm.
as well
Yeah.
as you're documenting the growth of your child too. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Rebecca
And I think, like,
Rebecca
too, as
says,
I,
Rebecca
sorry,
says, very eloquently spoken, Kim. It's
oh,
always great to hear your stories and see your beautiful photos.
oh, nice.
And
Thank
Wendy
you.
Bigler says, really enjoying your photos and descriptions. Thank you, Wendy. And Lee Ridgewell says, making me so excited for travel. I'd love to
Oh,
know what your favorite lenses to use are. Do you have certain type you use for certain photos? your photos do it justice. I'm sure they're beautiful. Thank you, Lee.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a Nikon, and yes, I do use a variety of lenses. Unfortunately, several of my lenses are broken at the moment. So I've got one fixed lens, which is 35 millimeter that I use, and I've got my my long lens sometimes works, and that is, I believe, 55 to 200. But I don't use it so often, really. Um, Oh, the 18 to, is it 50? Sometimes works as well. Yeah, I need new equipment, definitely.
Well, I think you're doing pretty well with what you have. Um, Ayaka also says, "Oh my gosh, you really made me want to go there so bad. I just put it on my bucket list."
Excellent. Kochi should be on everyone's bucket list.
So you have some of my favorite shots from your Instagram, I think, are views from the road, and
Oh, yeah.
you have this beautiful shot of very steep rice terraces and a very beautiful maybe lake or river or pool, and I just can't believe how steep the rice
Is
terraces
this
are.
in Kochi?
I think so.
It, those are tea, that's a tea plantation.
Oh, is it tea? Okay, so that's
Yeah,
not Kochi,
like,
somewhere else.
well, if you're looking at the most recent one, which is on the road, yes,
Yeah.
actually, that is in that album. That's a tea plantation
Oh,
in
wow.
that one. And Kochi is actually quite well known for green tea. So we brought some home as well. Yeah, there's a lot of tea plantations. And actually, in the rivers, there is a kind of, it's not seaweed, but it's like seaweed. There's a plant that they harvest from the river there, and we saw people drying it. And later that day, we went to a restaurant that serves local foods, and we had it as tempura. I can't remember the name of it, but it was so delicious.
Nice. I bet
And so,
you were happy to find that because you're a vegetarian family traveling, right?
yes, yes, that's right. Yeah. So that's like the other interesting thing. Like, being vegetarian, it kind of makes it difficult sometimes to try the local cuisine. So often we do research beforehand to figure out where we can do that. And I remember a couple of years we went to Mexico, and we really, thought, gosh, we can't go to Mexico and not eat like tacos and burritos and things like that. Like, we want to eat it how the locals eat it. So we found this food truck online in Mexico City, and they were supposed to have the best tacos, the best vegetarian tacos. And they were supposed to be the most authentic as well. And we went, and it was lined up. Like, it was so great. And it was so delicious that we ended up going there a couple of times. So we do that. We do research what the local dishes are, what the specialties of that area are, and we try to sample them whenever we can.
And if you're
Mhm.
camping, you would have some of your own food as a backup in case you didn't
Oh,
find something.
definitely. We bring mostly our own food, and then, yeah, with
Yeah.
camping anyway.
How
Hmm.
how is your daughter in terms of trying new things? Was she all right trying the seaweed from the
Great.
river? And that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, she eats everything. Yeah. So when she was really young, we just had this rule, like the green eggs and ham, you're not going to know until you try it. You got to try it. So she would just try it, and then if she didn't like it, I would somehow give it to her again and then give it to her again until she finally liked it. And I know that doesn't work with all kids, but it worked with her. So she eats everything now, everything that's vegetarian.
That's
Hmm.
great. Well, I think we've done justice for Kochi and your photographs there. Let's move on.
Great.
Let's move on to Yanai, where the goldfish are, because that looks like a great family trip.
Yeah, that was actually combined with a trip to Suoshima. So Yanai, we went to at the end of the day. We did an overnight camp in Suoshima. It's not very far. It's about a 2-hour drive, and it was lovely. We got there at sunset, um, which is not the most ideal time to arrive somewhere. And so we were trying to set up our tent as the sun was going down and the mosquitoes were coming out. So We hadn't had dinner. It was actually, yeah, it was a little bit of a nightmare that first night. Got a lot of bites. And once we got the tent set up, my daughter just went in there with the light and she said she's not coming out again. So she went in there, she like protected herself, got fully dressed even though it was super hot, and then came out and had dinner. But then the next morning we were there early, so we got to enjoy the beach without anyone else being there. And there's a little kind of island that you can walk out to. There's a sandbar. I don't know if you've got that picture there, but it was really nice to be there early in the morning. We got some nice photos.
Yeah, it looks like there's a big torii gate on the beach as well. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. Yeah, there's a little shrine on the road behind there. It's lovely. It's lovely. They call it Little Hawaii. So water really is crystal. It's beautiful. It's, I would say, one of the nicest areas to go swimming nearby.
Nice. And then you
Mhm.
went to Yanai,
And then
where
afterwards, we went to Yanai, which is there. I think it's called Shiraikabe. Shiraikabe. So it's the white walled street. And there are always these goldfish lanterns hanging there. And this street dates back to the Edo period. So it's like kind of a combination of, or it was a combination of shops, storehouses, merchant homes. And there's a couple of the merchant houses that they've been very, well, the whole area is very well preserved. But there's a couple of homes that you could go in and view. But with COVID, they were closed, and many of the shops were closed as well. It was actually quite sad walking around there in some ways, because I imagine at that time of year it would be really bustling and there would be a lot of tourists there, and that there were a couple of shops open. So we did go into one and we bought some paper and pens and things that we're going to use anyway, just to support the shopkeepers in that area. hmm But those goldfish lanterns, apparently they light them up every night throughout the summer. So I think it would be really pretty, like if you were to go on a photo trip there, to go in the early evening to photograph them lit up.
yeah, and these places we've been talking about, pretty much you need to have your own car to get around, right?
Yeah, pretty much. The last time we lived in Japan with Yasmin, we did not have a car. And we still took a lot of trips and went places we hadn't before, using public transportation. But honestly, I can't tell you how grateful I am to have a car right now, because taking public transportation's a little bit risky at times, I think, with COVID and just putting yourself in a position in a train with lots of other people. So yeah, I do feel grateful that we can um, kind of pack up our car with all of the essentials in it, especially during the early days, when the school closed. So we would just like pack our lunch and like head off. And a lot of people would say, "Oh my gosh, where are all the people? Everywhere you go, it seems empty." And I thought, well, it is. But, you know, I think a lot of those places would be somewhat empty anyway, because other than Obon and the other long holidays, people in Japan don't have a lot of time. And I feel like they don't go to the countryside that often. I mean, there's a lot of people who do hike, but there's more people who do other things, like go shopping and that kind of thing. But I suppose it was, maybe with shopping centers and things being closed, you expect more people to be out in nature, but we didn't really see that.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm showing photos of your Otake trip now. So you want to
Oh,
introduce that? It looks like a great hike.
well, this is my all-time favorite place in Hiroshima. It's my absolute favorite place. I love, love, love Mikura Dake. It was my first hike that I went on. It was the first time. It was my first time that I went up a mountain, way back in 2000. And I'm from an area in Canada where there aren't mountains. There's a couple of hills, but there aren't any mountains. So I guess maybe that's why I'm so in love with the mountains as well. So Mikurodake, it's 3 peaks. And so there's different courses you can go. And my husband used to rock climb. So years ago, he spent a lot of time at Mikurodake and he did a lot of rock climbing there. So he knows that area very well. So yeah, so my ultimate favorite place and a very challenging hike. And so we had camped nearby for one night, got up super early in the morning to do this hike. And I was a little bit worried because it's quite challenging. I think it's like I looked at my phone and I think it said that we had climbed the equivalent of 70 flights of stairs in that one day, like going up 70 flights. That's a lot of stairs. And also there's ropes and chains and other things that other kind of difficult areas. So I was worried about bringing my daughter up there, but she did great. She was wonderful and really enjoyed it and felt, pretty accomplished when she got to the top. And then we all just sat at the top and had some of the snacks that we brought. And yeah, went back down, but it's a lovely place. It's so beautiful. And I was happy to, take pictures along the way. Oftentimes, that gives me a little bit of a break when I need it too. My husband and daughter are much faster than me.
Yeah.
So I should probably be running to catch up to them, but sometimes I need a bit of air. So I'm just like, oh, I think I'll take a picture here. Yeah, just go on ahead.
It sometimes gives you a very needed break, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I think in the same album you had, it looks like Hamada Beach or a beach nearby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So probably I think I just sent those together for I don't know what reason, but yeah, that was a different day. And it was just a day trip to Hamada. And are those do those pictures look like they're in the spring?
I can't tell. I just have one picture of your daughter walking out to the beach, and it's a big white sandy beach, and we just see her
Oh,
back.
oh, this is so beautiful. So many people have not been to this area. And I I just discovered this area when I went to Hamada with a friend. So back the last time we were here, so maybe it must have been 2012 or 13, a friend came to visit from England and we took a trip to Hamada. And like I said, we didn't have a car. My daughter was very young and not walking, so I had a stroller. So we rented a little cabin in Hamada and I packed the stroller with everything we would need the back of the stroller, and I had the sleeping bags hanging off. I had like a cooler in there with our food. Like it was crazy. Like the stroller went from being this big to being like this monster thing. And my friend and I went along and pushed it somehow to the bus center, got on the bus, got to Hamada. And the next day, we decided to go to the aquarium. And the weather was beautiful that day as well. And so we thought when we got off the bus, we noticed the beach and we're like, let's go swimming. So we started walking. So this is directly opposite the aquarium. And there is this amazing tunnel. Like it's this brick tunnel. I wish I had a photo of that to show you. Well, I do have
Yeah,
photos
I
of that.
don't. I don't have a photo of that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this tunnel is amazing because it forms this frame around the beach. And we walked through this tunnel, and the beach that you're showing was in front of us. So it was just like, wow, this is incredible. And we spent quite a bit of time there enjoying it. So I never got the chance to go back. So this spring, I said to my husband, well, let's pack a picnic. Let's go to Hamada, and I want to show you this beautiful beach. So we went to this beach and found a place to park, which was very difficult, but ended up getting there. And it was it was so sad because when we got to the shoreline, there was so much garbage. So the picture you're seeing looks incredibly beautiful and the beach looks pristine, but along the shore, it was just like so much garbage that we could not pick it up. Like it would be impossible. So this was also during the closure. during the early COVID times when the aquarium was closed. So I have a feeling like the staff from the aquarium or someone from there must clean the beach regularly. But because it was all closed, nobody was cleaning it. So it was such an enormous shock for me to see it that way because it was such a happy place and it was so beautiful the first time I saw it. And I wanted my husband and daughter to experience that. We still enjoyed it. We had a nice picnic there, but we couldn't swim there. So we just packed up after lunch and we decided to go to another part of Hamada. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so hard.
took a photo hut.
It's important to see and to inform your consumer choices, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just overwhelming what is being washed in on shore every day. Not only Japan, everywhere around the world, right? So,
Exactly. Of course. And I thank you so much for all the beach cleanups you do
oh,
and
thank
the
you.
big difference that you make, really. Like on such a regular basis, you've been out there. You must have done hundreds of beach cleanups by now.
Yeah, quite a lot. It's more, like you said, you feel like you can't do much. It's more for raising awareness, even with myself, to remind myself
Yeah.
that I don't need to buy that plastic packaging. I don't need to buy that pet bottle. Like it reminds
Yeah.
myself, which is useful. We've got less than 10 minutes now. Let's go to
Okay.
Bihoku. I found your
Oh, okay.
beautiful
Wonderful.
Bihoku photos. Tell us about Bihoku Park.
Yeah, Bihoku Park is an awesome family park. There's a lot going on there. I think when we visited, it was just before Star Day. So they
Tanabata.
always do, yeah,
Yeah.
Tanabata. So they had a lot of like there's this one area with all like there's little houses and things, and you can go into these different houses and you can craft things like related to the time or the festival or event or whatever's happening. So there are lots of little projects that we could do that day. And there's also like a massive playground with zip lines and slides and roller slides and lots of fun things and big balls. So it was just a really fun. That trip was fully fun. That was just to give our daughter a chance to run around and play, just to get out there. Yeah.
Which is
So
so
that
important during this time because we forget that this coronavirus time is really stressing out our kids as well, of course.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think just that physical release
Yeah.
was important. Yeah.
Can you explain the Tanabata story? Do you know it for people who
Yeah.
aren't from Japan?
I do know it. I don't know how good of a job I'll do at explaining it, but there's a princess, I
There's
believe you would call
there's
her.
basically two lovers, right?
And yes, two lovers. One's a princess and one is a cow herder, I believe. And her father is some god or whatever. So anyway, they fall in love, and the father agrees that they can be together. Um, but after a while of being together, they're totally consumed by each other, and they kind of stop doing what they should be doing or ignore the duties that they have, and they only focus on each other, which angers her father. So he banishes her partner to the other side of the
Galaxy.
universe or
Yeah.
galaxy. Thank you.
So
And
so people
yeah,
write their wishes, especially about love, and hang it on bamboo, right?
yes, yeah. And then on the star day, if the skies are clear, the lovers will meet for a day. So every day they can meet for one day, which is Tanabata. And if the weather is not good, something happens. There's a bridge, there's some kind of bridge that they can cross. So either
You
way, they get to meet.
you know more than me. Yeah. So we just have about 5 more minutes. Let's have a quick look at the Kumano Fude Festival because you said
Oh,
it was one of your daughter's favorites.
yeah, that was her favorite festival. So that's the Brush Festival. So this year has been really about taking those family trips, kind of exploring nature, exploring the areas around us, doing a lot of camping. But last year was about festivals. So my daughter lived in Japan before, but she was probably too young to remember those festivals. So I really wanted her to experience culture through festivals. So we went to every single festival we could find every weekend, all kinds of local ones and a little bit a few further afield. But the Brush Festival was her absolute favorite. And I think the reason for that is she got to hold the Fude and she got to make a big scroll where she could actually write. So using ink and a brush, she could write, and she actually wrote Fude because that's the word she was told to write. So depending on your age or your grade level, they tell you what your kanji or what hiragana or whatever you will write. And then the kids get 3 or 4 practice sheets, and then they get to write on a scroll. So she was super proud of herself after doing that.
Yeah.
And it's
It's a
such a
really
lovely
fun, yeah, it's a really fun festival.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
the fire that I'm showing right now is they ritualistically burn the old Fude brushes, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it was pretty fun this year because she is in grade 3 now, and in grade 3 they start practicing shoto. They start practicing calligraphy. So we bought her a set. We had to buy a set from school. So she actually practices this at school. So she was like, "Oh, I've had a little bit of experience with this," and she was really looking forward to it.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. So any future trips coming up that you're planning, or what's on your bucket list? Family travel in Japan. Do you have
Well,
anything you'd love to go and see?
yes, I do. Yes, I would really love to go to Wakayama. And I would love to do a temple stay there. I'm not sure if that's something that you can do with kids, but that's something I want to do personally. Um, what other things? Well, actually, this weekend it's my husband's birthday, and it's a very special birthday. So we're going on a kind of a big trip for an overnight. We're going to Totori, um, to Yanago, and we're staying there for one night. Yeah.
Nice.
Um, Lots of trips I'd like to do. I mean, I've
Totori.
never been
So
closer.
are you going to go and see the sand dunes of
Probably
Totori?
not. That's a bit too far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big area. Takes a
Yeah.
long
We
time
went
to drive
together.
over. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Many, many years ago.
Oh
We
yeah,
drove
that's
that
right.
4-hour trip with Felix in the back.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yes.
What
Long
did you
time
want to
ago.
do in Wakayama? What was it?
I want to go stay at a temple there. Yeah. And I want to eat Shojin Ryori, and I want to pray. I don't know, not pray, meditate, because I don't really pray. I guess meditate. I'd like to meditate
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And find
And
I think we all, especially now during coronavirus, we all need to find more inner peace and to
mhm,
release a lot of the stress that I think we're bottling up these days, right?
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much,
Well,
Kim. Thank you for sharing all of your beautiful travel photos and for taking all these wonderful adventures with your family. I know it's not easy, right? As a parent, especially if the weather's bad or it's so hot. It's so easy to just let's find something on TV, or let's just do something around here. But you guys are really putting in so much effort and planning. It's so inspiring.
yeah. Well, we don't have a TV, so that helps.
Great.
We've got lots of books. We go to the library a lot. Even the local libraries are great. But yeah, there is a lot of planning involved, and I do think about it a lot. And I feel very privileged that one, I have the time to be able to do this, and two, that I have the means to be able to do this. I mean, one of the ways I do have those means is just I just don't buy stuff. I just like put everything towards trips or travel um, and that kind of thing. So that's one way, but still, it's a privilege.
I
It is a privilege for
I
sure.
love that idea of just creating experiences instead of creating more things that you own, right? And
Hmm.
it's such a beautiful, simple solution to our overcluttered houses problems, right?
Yeah, for sure. And, like really, you don't have to go that far. Like, I really think the important thing is just to get out there. And in those early times of COVID, when my husband was actually working on Saturdays, so we didn't really do that much. And my daughter and I would just go walk by the river. And I did this scavenger hunt with her one day, and it was like a 5 hour scavenger hunt. It was a really long time. So just, I think just getting outside and appreciating nature and, that is also really relaxing
Yeah.
and really changes your mind and puts you in a new place. If you can be near water or be in a forest or somehow it just kind of shifts something, right?
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. I just have one technical question at the end. How
Sure.
do you do your superimposed pictures? Are you doing that with digital pictures? That's gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm just layering
Mm-hmm.
over. Yeah, so I'm layering. So I'm taking two photos and then I'm layering one on top of the other. Yeah. So
Like
I've done a couple
your
of portraits
your
that way.
old house, all the paint peeling off,
Exactly.
and then is that you and your daughter on the
That's
beach?
my husband and my daughter on the beach.
Uh-huh.
And the those two pictures are from the same trip. One picture was taken. We were sitting eating lunch in a restaurant, and I noticed the old building beside us had this boarded up wall. And I thought, well, I'm just going to take a picture of that. And then usually it's when I don't know, doing the dishes or something that I'll have this like idea, like, oh wow, I want to put that in that window, or like that one picture of me like the with the birds flying. Like I took those really years apart. And again, I think I was doing the dishes and thought, wow, that would be cool if I put those birds over that because those are like bird feathers in my hair.
It's
So I'm quite
gorgeous.
inspired by doing dishes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice to have an artistic side as well as documenting, not just using photographs to document and keep records, but to show your creative artistic side. So thank you so much for sharing them with us.
Thank you.
And
It's been
thank
great to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. Look forward to following your next trip on your
Oh,
photos.
well, thanks, Joy. Thanks so
And
much. I
I
look forward to watching your next live
Yeah,
talk.
wonderful. And I put the link to your Flickr album on the bottom of this video. So if people want to see your photos, maybe they can find it there. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Um, Great. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your wonderful comments and questions. And tomorrow morning, we're talking with Brian Ashcraft about sake and whiskey. So we're changing pace a little bit.
Hmm,
So please join us if you're free. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
awesome.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kim.